Hi there guys, welcome back to another episode on Rancor Reptiles. Today I'm coming at you with a bird's eye view on the Dampier Peninsula monitor. If you like these bird eye view series episodes, please leave a like, subscribe, comment down below maybe on a suggestion for a future animal that you'd like to talk about. Doesn't necessarily need to be a reptile, could be an amphibian, arachnid, you name it. And today we're going to be talking about the Dampier Peninsula monitor. The reason why I wanted to talk about this species so much is because the moment I found out about them, I immediately fell in love. This monitor gets to around 10 inches max, head to tail. And this is a monitor lizard. It's part of the Varanus family, and it's the smallest in the world. You know, usually widely available are Aki monitors, red and yellow. And they are fairly small monitors, probably one of the most manageable monitors on the market. This guy gets around 10 inches, so this guy takes it to the next level. Because they are so small, however, they are a bit more skittish. Because they are small, they are used to being predated upon in nature. Birds, coyotes, other animals, they're the small guy in their habitat, so they're a little more skittish. A little harder to tame down for handling. However, these guys I think are honestly worth it simply because of the size. They eat the same type of food diversity other monitors eat. They exhibit the same look as large monitors in a tiny 10-inch package. So this is an amazing animal, and I really do believe that this animal has great potential and the reptile keeping community. Now, to get into this animal, I'm going to be talking about 3 barriers for entry for this animal, and the first one is the environmental barrier. Now, this animal comes from Australia, a foreshadowing of what's to come. This is a animal from Australia, usually from the arid to sub-arid areas, so they like a more drier, higher heat environment. The humidity needs to be capped relatively at mid-level. You don't have to worry about it too much. However, they do want a good hot spot. As long as you have that, perfectly fine. Next up is the spatial barriers. How much space this guy needs. This guy is 10 inches. He doesn't need a huge enclosure that takes up half of your room or half of a room in your house. This guy is around 10 inches. He will probably do fairly well. You know, you can argue the size minimums for, you know, till the cows come home. I believe a 40-gallon breeder is the minimum. I obviously believe you should have something larger, like 120-gallon for one of these guys, simply because they are still monitors. They are active. They're inquisitive. You should let them explore more, right? 120 gallons is it is a big enclosure, or 120 gallon equivalent. It is a big enclosure for the size of this lizard. However, like I said, this is a varanid, a monitor lizard, very active, and they should be allowed to explore and move around how it wants. The most challenging barrier of the 3 is the financial barrier. I foreshadowed that this lizard is from Australia and was discovered, or it was brought out after the Australian export bans. So that means that this guy, the Dampier Peninsula monitor, is not very available anywhere outside of Australia. If you live in Australia, good for you. Pretty jealous. However, if you're out like say in the States, Canada, Europe, parts of China, Africa, wherever, it is extremely difficult to get your hands on the Dampier Peninsula monitor. It is pretty darn hard because Australia simply just doesn't export any of its wildlife, or even if the animal was captive bred and all the paperwork was in order, they still don't allow for exportation of their animals. What the hell, Australia? So it's almost impossible to get. But let's say they are available and they came out on the market. These guys would not go for cheap. Thousands of dollars. This is up there in rarity, and most likely there is going to be high demand for this animal. Simply because if you do manage to get your hands on a pair and you're able to breed them out, this animal's so small, however exhibits all the key characteristics of the Varanus family, the monitor family, that this would fit perfectly into a huge amount of people's collections. You know, even for me it would fit perfectly. The enclosure size is not too big. Good diversity diet is not a problem because these guys are small. They won't eat you out of the house. So there will be high demand because almost anyone can take care of this lizard. So you could sell those animals fairly quickly. So that means there's high demand, low supply. So you're looking at thousands of dollars, thousands for a pair, even tens of thousands maybe. I've seen a single individual. I haven't seen this particular monitor. However, I've seen other types of lizards that are hard to get because they're from Australia. I've seen them go for $7,000–8,000 per animal. So if you're looking to get a pair, expect to spend some big bucks. So barrier there is darn high. However, let's say by look of stroke you won the lottery and you have a connection from Australia that can legally send you a pair or a single one of these animals. What would you need in your setup? Now these guys, like I said, come from arid areas in Australia, so they do fairly well on sand. I've seen a lot of breeders of these animals just keep them on red sand. That's fine. However, I would probably prefer just a coconut core substrate, right? Coconut core can be passed through much more easily than sand. I don't trust sand. I would never use sand. That's just me. Call me old-fashioned, but I just don't like sand. So you can use coconut core product as a substrate. For the enclosure size, like I said, 120 gallon would be preferred or equivalent size. Exoterras would be nice to give them some climbing space, things like that. And lighting, these guys do come from, like I said, a pretty arid area, lots of sun. They're gonna need a UVB 10.0, and they're gonna need a hot spot of 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a pretty toasty hot spot. You want to make sure that whatever heating lamp you use here won't burn the animal. Whatever heating type implement that you use here to get that heat, like a lamp, doesn't fall into the enclosure and burn your animal. So you got to make sure that everything's set up on that side. They're gonna need a water bowl, decorations. They like to dig, so maybe have like flower pots, upside down flower pots, hollowed out water dishes, places where they can go into and hide. These guys are much more slender. They got these tubby legs. They almost have like a skink's body plan, like a blue tongue skink's body plan. They have kind of tubby legs. These guys like to burrow, hide out for most of the day. So don't expect to see them out and about very much. However, when you do bring in food, they are voracious. Little raptors, like all monitor lizards, these guys are no exceptions. Their feeding response is on point. Going on to feeding, these guys eat invertebrates, cockroaches, dubias, mealworms, superworms, silkworms, you name it, fits in their mouth, they eat it. They can also eat egg, chicken, beef. Of course, you want to make sure that their diet, since these guys are much smaller, it's much more affordable to give them a diet consisting mostly of invertebrates. So you make sure that it's much more heavier on the invertebrate side. These guys are very active, so they're going to need to eat a lot since they are part of the Varanus family. And quite frankly, everything else is pretty standard with their feedings. The calcium, these guys are they like to bask quite a bit, so they don't need too much D3. and you are giving them that UVB 10.0, so they don't need D3 in their calcium. So make sure that if you do buy calcium for these guys, which you should do, it's low to no D3, and it's just pure calcium. And then on, say, the weekends or every so often, you can give them the vitamins. Of course, all these supplements need to be dusted on their feeders, crickets, all that good stuff. I would stay away from mice, feeding them mice and things like that, because these are smaller. You're gonna be feeding them much younger rats or mice. Those type of prey items have a higher calorie count. They're high in fats, and you really do not want to get these small monitors obese, because that's what pinkies will probably end up doing to your animal. So next up is the breeding. I really do not have too much information on how to breed these guys. I looked around, and for the most part they're like other monitors. You introduce the male, wait around 2-3 days, separate the male and female, offer an area that has moisture substrate than the surrounding, like a Tupperware full of damp sand, not too wet, just real more humid sand. The female will then burrow and lay their eggs there. If you see the female digging into there, that's a good sign that she's almost ready to lay eggs. And besides that, there's not very much information. Of course, with egg incubation on these guys, I don't have much information either. I wish I had more, guys, but I just can't seem to find it on the internet. So I would suggest, when you do buy these guys off of whoever you're buying from, say you're buying a nice captive bred pair, unrelated, from, let's say, a vendor or buyer online, please ask about incubation temperatures and humidity, since these guys are more arid animals. The humidity probably isn't going to be too high. My guess, disclaimer, my guess would be around 30 to 40% humidity, and the temps right around the low to mid 80s. That would be my guess. Maybe it's higher, maybe it's lower. Please ask your breeder when you buy these animals what would be the specifications for egg incubation, right? So in closing, the cons of this animal, it lies solely on the fact that they're really damn expensive. They're rare, they're hard to find, almost impossible to get your hands on. Think Australia for that, but they are protecting their wildlife and all that. Bittersweet pill, I guess. They're hard to find, however, and that's pretty much all the negatives, right? They're just hard to find and they're expensive. The pros is they're small, so you can keep them around, and they have that compacted Varanid behavior in such a little animal. They look like a monitor. They act like them. They have the same food aggressivity as the rest of the monitors. Maybe the downside might be that you're looking to get a monitor to give that wow factor, you know, like, holy dang, that black throat monitor is huge, or, you know, just big animals. That's not here. This is for someone that wants to keep a Varanid species that is actually manageable and can actually be kept easier. You don't need to have a water feature, and you don't need to give up half of a room in your house to keep these guys. So these guys are very manageable, and I think that is the best part about these guys. All that behavior made extremely accessible. Alright guys, so this has been the Dampier Peninsula monitor. If you have any suggestions on future animals, leave a comment down below. If you have any questions or any corrections to this type of to this information, leave it down below. It's always nice to see someone, you know, leave a comment. Please like, subscribe, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for coming by and checking me out. Thank you.